Welcome, everyone, to the Chris Parrish Podcast. My name is Chris Parrish. How is everyone doing this fine Sunday? We are here with episode 119, titled Shots Fired. But before we go any further, we must thank everyone who has brought us to this point. That is right, Turnbuckle Studios, the platform to catch the Chris Parrish Podcast. For more information, please check out turnbucklestudios.org. And for Barricade YEG, the official partner of the Chris Parrish Podcast. And if you want to watch AEW Revolution, you are in luck because you can be there tonight and watch AEW Revolution live for free at Barricade YEG. So if you live in the Edmonton area and you don't have a location for AEW Revolution, Barricade YEG is the home there. Doors open at 5 p.m. local time. So go check out Barricade YEG. All the information is down in the description. If by chance you are in one of those destinations that don't have that, then please go to my link tree and check it out. All the information is right there. Speaking of my link tree, if you want to follow every platform of the Chris Parrish Podcast or anything about the Chris Parrish Podcast, look no further than that link right below my face. That link tree, you can get every updated link that is a part of the Chris Parrish Podcast and my socials. So please go check that out. Hit me a like, hit me a follow, hit a subscription, all of that great stuff. If you're on Spotify, please rate the episodes. They do so much for the channel, and I appreciate everything. Just like our good old friend Bobby Stats, Bobby Benito, coming in saying hello. I just like the video on YouTube, as well as CBRS Entertainment saying good afternoon, morning, Mr. Parrish. Mr. Parrish is my father's name. You just call me Parrish. So shots fired. We've seen and heard a lot of shots being fired over the WWE in this last week. I don't think anything was more loud and clear than Finn Balor being kicked out of the Judgment Day, and that's exactly where I want to start off. I think we've been seeing a dissension in the Judgment Day for quite a long time. In fact, it was rumored that all the way back from last year's SummerSlam, there was a plan in place to go with Dominic Mysterio against Finn Balor, and we were going to see the return of the Demon character. Now, before we hot shot that to WrestleMania and say, well, I think we're going to get it at WrestleMania, let's go through the timeline a little bit and understand where this came from. Now, to start the year, we really had a lot of injuries in the Judgment Day, whether it was Liv Morgan just coming back from a major injury, whether it was JD McDonough out, whether it's Roxanne Perez out, or even Dirty Dominic Mysterio out as well. Finn Balor was trying to get into the Royal Rumble match, was being told it was already filled. He waited too long. So he made a challenge to CM Punk. They had a match on Raw live in Ireland where CM Punk got the best of Finn Balor. And for the first time we saw Finn Balor show respect to his babyface counterpart. We're seeing and hearing all of these minute details from Finn Balor where he is accepting being his own man. He went out for that match by himself, and he ended up losing on his own. Fast forward, and we get another match between Finn Balor and CM Punk, and this goes the exact same way. A great one-on-one match but it was Finn Balor taking the L once again. Now, in this match, it was actually asked by CM Punk to go out without the Judgment Day, because at that time, both Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough were back in the fold. But it wasn't until the match with Penta and Dirty Dominic Mysterio just 2 Mondays ago for the Intercontinental Championship, where Dirty Dominic Mysterio has asked the Judgment Day that, unlike Finn, he does want the help of the Judgment Day. And while both JD McDonough and Finn Balor both were sitting ringside for this Intercontinental match, it was Dom that asked JD to grab a ring bell. And before JD could stand up and go get it, it was Finn Balor who stopped this attempt for interference. This led to a lot of confusion for Dirty Dom, and then it allowed Penta to secure the win. It really changed the course of this match. So let's now rewind all the way back to just a few days ago on Monday Night Raw, where we saw Finn Balor and Dirty Dom have a little bit of a conversation in the ring. Things got a little heated, and JD said the line that says, "Maybe, just maybe, your father was actually right about you." This then struck a chord with Dom. He pie faces him. He gets upset. We then see a Pele kick to Dom from Finn. And now the shockwaves are there. Now, what we were expecting from the summer of last year is now a reality in the spring of this year. JD McDonough doesn't know what to do. He's talking to Finn Balor, trying to calm him down, only for Finn Balor to push him away, hit a sling blade on Dom, countering Liv in the other corner, about to go for that drop kick into a corner until JD McDonough says enough is enough, clotheslines his mentor, Finn Balor. The rest of the Judgment Days then start beating up on Finn Balor. Thus, the kickout is now in full effect as Finn Balor was removed from the Judgment Day this past Monday. Now, Finn Balor was the longest reigning member of the Judgment Day. As we remember, he joined on the same day that Edge was kicked out himself. So it is very, very apropos who Finn, who's responsible for both the removal of Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley from the Judgment Day, now finds himself in that same position. So the Judgment Day, no matter if you try to become a leader, you will be removed. That seems to be the story and the theme to the group of the Judgment Day. But I can't help but think that with Finn Balor embracing more accountability, he's embracing the babyface Finn Balor, whether it's the theme music, whether it's the taunts, whether it's the attitude. Finn Balor right now is in a position where he wants to focus on doing things the way he was meant to do them. And that wasn't through the eyes of the Judgment Day. Chris Best coming in saying, I got a feeling that it will take place at Mania, and it will be for the AAA Mega Championship. Bobby Stats coming in and saying, I'm interested to see if we will see a singles match on the main roster between Finn and JD McDonough. I would not be surprised if we get a tune-up match soon. After all, it was JD McDonough who was the first member of the Judgment Day that really delivered that first shot. One might say he fired the first shot that led to the kickout of JD McDonough. because there was nothing that McDonough was harmed by from Finn from a direct standpoint. Remember, it was Finn Balor that took that verbal shot to Dom, and every action must have a reaction, but there was nothing that really gave JD McDonough a direct reason to go after Finn Balor outside of JD's loyalty to the Judgment Day and to Dominic Mysterio. Now, let's be honest. We have seen multiple attempts of the Judgment Day trying to get the tag titles back from JD and Finn, and it doesn't seem that Finn Balor wanted to be in a tag team anymore. Now, there's a reluctant opportunity at one point, but Finn Balor was very outspoken of saying he wanted to be World Heavyweight Champion. And we all know that once Damian Priest became World Heavyweight Champion, things started looking rough for Damian Priest in the Judgment Day. It wasn't too long after Damian Priest was kicked out. I believe it was a Mania to a SummerSlam. And that is where Finn Balor screwed Damian Priest in a match against Gunther. So yes, we now are looking at our way towards a Rey Mysterio and Finn Balor matchup. And Chris Best said, I think it will be for the AAA Mega Championship. Now, I'm going to ask the big question. Does that championship need to be on the line? Because even though we saw the Reyes just last night, we did not see Finn Balor get involved. We did not see Finn Balor do anything to Dominic Mysterio, as Dominic Mysterio picked up the win against Vikingo in the main event. We also saw El Grande Americano, not our original, win that fatal four-way match. And we also saw Bayley, a wonderful surprise. Bobby Seth's coming and saying he was expecting Finn Balor at the show. And I think a lot of people were, but at the same time, he just got beaten down by multiple people on Raw. I think if you're going to do anything, you allow this Monday to really shape shift your directional process for Finn and JD. I think that's what they have to do. Everything they've done has been within the realm of WWE, so I don't see why we're going into AAA unless there is another AAA Mega Championship title defense before WrestleMania, and then I can see Finn getting involved and costing Dom that championship. Chris Best to say, no, but it will be done to give AAA some representation at Mania. Yeah, that it will. And obviously it will, as we all know that it was just 1 year ago where we saw the official acquisition of AAA into WWE. Bobby Petito coming in saying, which WWE wrestler would you like to see go against Flammer? I would love to see Julia, Stephanie Vacquier, or Becky Lynch. Peppermint Queen coming in saying Finn will be beaten down till WrestleMania, and then Finn snaps. Well, Finn has been beaten down, and one might say he may just snap tomorrow. I think being kicked out of the Judgment Day is by far enough for one to snap. Because if anybody knows the power of the group mentality and the group pack mentality of the Judgment Day, it would be Finn Balor himself. That's why I think it's absolutely huge towards the mid-card card scene going into WrestleMania that now we have this high emotional attached match happening into WrestleMania. Good morning to you, Star 3 Fan Gaming. Do we think the Demon will return? I absolutely do. I did say earlier that the proposed idea at SummerSlam was the the Demon against Dom. And I do think that will be something that we see at WrestleMania. I do think the Demon will either be a surprise of its own at WrestleMania, or we will see the tease of it on Raw, the Go Home edition. Bobby coming in saying, I'd like to see Flammer against Ivy Nile or Candice LeRae. Both great options as well. Earlier, I did talk about turnbucklestudios.org, and the one thing that you can do on there is go to our shop page. That's right. If you go to turnbucklestudios.org/shop, you can decide if you want to wear anything of the logos from any one of the shows. You don't even have to get a shirt. You can get a hat, you can get a phone cover, you can get pillowcases. But instead of me just rambling on about what our online store powered through Redbubble does, when you go to turnbucklestudios.org/shop, maybe one of these options will suit your need.
The Turnbuckle Studios store is open for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the merch and represent the best from the shows you watch on a weekly basis. Multiple styles to choose from with over 10 products available. Don't get left out and pick up all your favorites today. Find us at turnbucklestudios.org.
Another topic that I would like to know, and like to talk about more and get a lot more of opinions of what everybody else thought, was another huge shot that was fired just on Friday during a contract signing between Randy Orton, your 2026 Men's Elimination Chamber winner, and the current new undisputed champion, Cody Rhodes. Now, there's been a lot of mixed emotions about Cody Rhodes since winning that championship. There were some boos, there were some cheers, there was some meh. But the reality is, Cody Rhodes is now a 3-time champion in WWE, and he is your current undisputed champion looking to go one-on-one with Randy Orton. But the question was, are they both going to be baby faces in the match? Is that how it's going to play out? Is there an explosive ready to go off? Who's going to fire that first shot? And it was Randy Orton himself who did it. Sami Zayn once asked Randy Orton just a couple weeks ago, how do you do it? How do you flip the switch of being best friends one day and then punching them in the face the next? Randy Orton flat out said, sometimes you just have to be selfish. Sami asked, does that not make you a bad guy? Randy replied, no. Not necessarily, but it made me a 14-time world champion. Now, it's been interesting outside of what we saw to see the stack of people almost getting frustrated with Cody lining up. Whether it was, to begin, it was Seth Rollins. Then we saw Roman Reigns. We've seen Drew McIntyre. We've seen The Rock. We've seen John Cena. We've even seen Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. But Randy Orton was someone that we always thought if there's someone that would just snap, Randy Orton was the most logical fit. Now, I will say, I still believe that a heel Cody going into this match or even coming out of this match would have been a little different. And a little bit of difference sometimes is a nice change. I don't think anyone will say anything negative about Randy Orton going back and being that monster heel he was in 2009. But I'm also curious to see how he's evolved, pun intended, into the Viper we know in 2026. It was a pretty vicious beating. Not only did he slam his head against the table where they signed the contract, he also kicked him right in his American Nightmares. He then beat him up on the outside, pillar to post, had his face looking up from the stairs, as in that V shape. His neck was being rested on there. He was looking up. Randy Orton comes back and delivers a very vicious chair shot. And that is how we go off. Now, we also need to take note that Randy Orton pushed Nick Aldis. And do you not remember when he RKO'd and was given a fine and he doubled it? And Nick Aldis says, but this is double. And he's like, that's for next time. Well, I think we just got our next time. But it didn't take long for WWE to pull that trigger on changing the dynamic of this match. I think we could have easily said this could have been a build very much like WrestleMania 17 with The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. And maybe the mistake was, hey, the Stone Cold who did turn heel, that could have been that Cody Rhodes. Yeah, we probably made a mistake with turning Stone Cold heel there. And maybe that was why they decided to go with Randy Orton. Go to what we know. So it'll be very intriguing to see. But I still think Randy Orton walks out of WrestleMania the new undisputed champion. Thank you, buddy. I bought it myself. Very cheap, too. So if you're ever at a TNA show, their merchandise is actually quite affordable. And I appreciate that. Because usually when you're at wrestling shows, nothing is. So my only question with Randy Orton, if he is to win the championship at WrestleMania, is winning it from a heelish way enough, or do we need to see something more? I think Sami Zayn officially turns on Cody Rhodes again. Well, not again. He hasn't done it the first time, but he officially turns on Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania and helps Randy Orton become champion. And maybe we just see the quote-unquote heel Cody as a babyface. Because one of the best characters of all time was Stone Cold Steve Austin. And he wasn't exactly your kissing babies type babyface when he was Stone Cold Stunning Vince McMahon, drinking beers on the job, giving middle fingers to his bosses, and then also beating up Mike Tyson, who was the corporate guest to an event. Wasn't exactly fitting the mold there. And I think that's why we all loved it. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something like that with Cody Rhodes, to the point where maybe he doesn't wear a 3-piece suit every week. Maybe he just wears his fighting gear more often. I don't know. All I know is I just don't think we are going to get a clean face versus heel match here. In fact, I strongly believe a stipulation might be added to this match, whether it's anything goes, maybe it's no holds barred, something to the line where we just allow all the upbeat shenanigans to come into full effect. Because, hey, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? Street fight, potentially, yeah. Definitely fits the mold. I just don't want it to be a Hell in a Cell or a cage or anything like that. And definitely not a ladder match. I want that to be saved for other championships on there. But I do think something along those lines needs to be implemented, because if we were going to see such a vicious heel turn on from Randy, then whatever Cody Rhodes does for his reaction, because again, every reaction must have a reaction, needs to be just as bad, if not worse. But I like everyone, I'm very intrigued with the direction we are seeing with Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. I do think they are going to deliver. Now, I do strongly believe that's going to wind up being your night one main event. I still believe Liv Morgan and Stephanie Becker should have that spot. But how can you go against what they're doing from a storyline aspect, from an emotional investment? It's kind of hard to say why not them. So for me, it's a moot point at this point. But I'd just like to see WWE stay true to the whole you win the Royal Rumble, yeah, main event WrestleMania. And I want that to just not be on the men's side. I want the women to get that same opportunity as well. And I am aware that Randy Orton has stated that he will main event WrestleMania after winning the Elimination Chamber. So I do look at that as part of a reason why that will be the last match on night one. And I will let everybody know, if you want to catch a great watch party of WrestleMania, look no further than the PLE Patrol, hosted on all the socials from Turnbuckle Studios. But if you would like to see what else Turnbuckle Studios presents on a weekly basis, please check this out.
Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program bring you the week of streams. All times are in Eastern Time. Monday nights you get the Locker Room Breakdown at 7 p.m., followed by the Raw Patrol at 8 p.m. Tuesday brings you the flagship show, Turnbuckle Talk, at 8:05 p.m. Wednesday we play games with the PlayStation Showcase at 8 p.m. Thursday we go TNA as we brace for Impact at 9 p.m. On Fridays, join us for the SmackDown Security Detail at 8 p.m. The weekend brings you Saturday Night Gaming at 8 p.m. On Sunday, be sure to catch the Chris Parrish podcast at 12:15 p.m. And later that night, we have the Boar's Nest at 8 p.m. Be part of the shows and join the chat every day. And please visit turnbucklestudios.org.
Now, I said last week when I let everybody know what episode 119 was going to be titled, that I was going to talk about the promo. Shots fired being more of a verbal deal. And I think one WrestleMania match that has really been taking the audience by storm through promo has been CM Punk and Roman Reigns. I think that was very evident the two times Roman Reigns and CM Punk have shared a ring as they talked about their upcoming match at WrestleMania, whether it was the first time where Roman picked CM Punk as his WrestleMania opponent, or just 2 weeks ago, where we saw the infamous line about Roman's father, delivered by CM Punk. But this past week on Raw, Roman Reigns, to a surprise by us all, was not present at Monday Night Raw. But we did hear from Roman's family, Jimmy and Jay, the World Tag Team Champions, the Usos. And we ended the show off with CM Punk in a segment in the ring with the microphone in hand with both members of the Usos. And I thought this really painted the Usos in a very intriguing picture because once again, they're being tied into Roman's business when they really didn't want to be. But it was the quote about family that magnetizes their attention and now their actions into the situation. So I thought, in a weird way, I have to give it to CM Punk for the mind game that he is playing on the bloodline. And how appropriate and ironic is it that the other man to have really played mind games successfully with Roman Reigns and the bloodline was the man who hates CM Punk more than Roman in Seth Rollins. So for me, it's very intriguing to see Roman in a way where he was less speechless, but then now it pisses off all the other family members of Roman who have his back and have his support in Jimmy and Jay, because in a weird, indirect way, yet through a direct vessel, this does affect Jimmy and Jay. And I thought it was very intriguing with the way that CM Punk talked to Roman, how he opened up this door to the point where you can expect why Jimmy and Jay are upset with CM Punk, because CM Punk have been friends with both members of the Usos since coming back. He's even tagged with them at War Games. So the question remains is, why was this segment so important, so valuable to the story with Roman Reigns? Because I think we can all agree that ad nauseum, we don't really want to see the bloodline back together right now. We want to wait. In fact, we might be over it. There's a lot of moments and a lot of emotions involving the bloodline, the original installment of the bloodline, for that matter. Which, by the way, the original installment of bloodline was Roman Reigns with the Usos. So the fact that CM Punk said the words that he was in a position to apologize when Roman Reigns fails to deliver on promises to his family, he fails to have the same loyalty to the Usos that the Usos have to him. He has to apologize, even though Roman doesn't want to come to work all the time. He doesn't want to be the working champion like CM Punk is. You can't say that's not true, in a sense. CM Punk is not wrong for saying what he's saying. And I think that's the beauty of the promos that we are getting, is from the narrative of CM Punk. It's very hard to disagree with what he's saying. However, I think we all know that in order to be one of the most iconic WWE champions of all time, and you can go down the list, whether it's Hulk Hogan, John Cena, Steve Austin to an extent, Brock Lesnar, and even Roman Reigns, sometimes, like during their iconic reigns, they weren't defending the title every single night. This wasn't Ric Flair with the NWA World Championship. This isn't Adam Pearce with the NWA World Championship. This isn't an example of that. This is an example of comparing to everyone in the world of WWE. But Roman Reigns was the number one guy when Netflix and WWE reached an agreement, when WWE was sold to the TKO group. So Roman Reigns is one of the most important figures in today's game because of that. There's a reason why things moved the way they did, and he was on top. Now, I'm a Shawn Michaels fan to the day I perish, but when he won the WWF Championship for the first time, it's not like the company's business did that amazing. And that's why they had to take it off and go in a different direction, because business went that way. Now, was he a bad champion? No. But it just shows that sometimes you need to have that special quality to be one of the iconic champions and one of the greatest of all time. So that's why I think Roman Reigns can get away with what he does. And that's why in his narrative, what CM Punk says is total crap to him, because he has done more for the WWE by being champion for 1,316 days than CM Punk did for 434 days. And I don't think a lot of people can dispute that, because business is business. And that is what a champion should do. Increase business. Now, we're not getting the Roman Reigns who's cocky about what he does away from the ring. We're not even getting a humble Roman Reigns. What we are getting is a Roman Reigns who's prepared to make his 1,316 days irrelevant to what he plans on doing the next time he's champion. That's the Roman Reigns we're getting right now. And because of that, we don't need Roman Reigns to carry the microphone. We need CM Punk to carry everything on a microphone. So the fact that CM Punk was in that promo segment with the Usos, to where CM Punk has a history of just talking his way into fights, well, he did just that, because that final, it wasn't necessarily the words he said, but the last word he did say, he slams the microphone in the chest of Jey Uso. And you can only imagine that's going to piss off Jey Uso, who's more of the hothead of the two. He's definitely more of the emotional guy out of the two, to where he reacts off his emotions. And he delivers a push back. And then Jimmy Uso delivers the shot that knocks CM Punk straight to the canvas. And yes, we saw a smile out of CM Punk's face, because he knows he's in the mind of the bloodline. He knows he has crossed that line, and he's willing to cross that line, because he understands that if I can get Roman Reigns emotionally unavailable, that is my way of winning this match. I'm just very intrigued with how the Usos are going to be used from here on out into the WrestleMania show itself. Because why involve them in this now if there's no payoff later? I'm curious. I'm intrigued. based on the fact that I have absolutely no idea where this is going to go. I don't know who's going to walk away with this championship. I can see CM Punk retaining this title at WrestleMania. I can even see Roman Reigns becoming a champion once again. All I know is this is the one match on the show. I have no idea where they're going to go after. And that is why I know it's a definitive Night 2 main event. And it's the main event of WrestleMania. It is going to be the last match of the entire show. And it's for a reason. Because I do think something huge is on the horizon. Now, every time you see a show on Turnbuckle Studios, we ask people if you want to become a part of us. There's no different on any of that. The reason why is because we all know that getting to the top means you can't do it alone. We always need some assistance, whether it's off screen, whether it's on screen, whether it's just assistance with simple things. So if by chance you have any aspirations to help out in podcasting, in content creation, and you want to get a part of the Turnbuckle affiliation program, well, if you want to tap in, the best way to do it is by going to turnbucklestudios.org/join. If you're not really sure on what you have to do, please take 30 seconds out of your day and watch this quick video.
A Turnbuckle affiliation program is looking for more people. If you have passion level for pro wrestling, sports, videos, games, or something else, then Turnbuckle Studios is the place to be. If you have ever wanted to pursue content creation and want to join our team, then we would love to have you. Check out turnbucklestudios.org or contact us by email today because your future is now, and we want you to tap in.
We talked about Cody Rhodes becoming a now 3-time undisputed champion. He defeated Drew McIntyre just last week. Now, the census of Drew McIntyre is that he's going to face Jacob Fatu at WrestleMania, as Jacob Fatu was not only the reason why Drew won the championship in the first place, but is a huge reason why he also lost it. Jacob Fatu is very convinced that Drew McIntyre was the one who attacked him, losing 11 teeth. But on SmackDown, we saw Drew McIntyre get upset with Nick Aldis. And the reason is simple. When Drew McIntyre won the championship, there's a no rematch clause for Cody Rhodes. And that no rematch clause was just for the sake of having a match. The only conditions was that if Cody Rhodes won the Royal Rumble or Elimination Chamber, those were his ways of collecting said rematch. Now, he didn't do both of those. And a lot of that reason was Drew McIntyre, who got involved in both the Royal Rumble elimination match and eliminated Cody Rhodes. And then also got involved in the Elimination Chamber leading up to Cody Rhodes' elimination. So needless to say, Drew McIntyre really dug his own grave in this situation. So he was upset with Nick Aldis to the point where he didn't want to talk about anything. He just wanted the right thing being done, which was he wanted his championship back. Jacob Fatu came out and said, if you're going to blame anyone, blame me. Because I did this to you. You're not champion because of me. And I'll piss you off even more. You were only champion because of me. I don't think Drew McIntyre wants to fight Jacob Fatu. I don't think he wants that at all. I think he wants to be champion once again. The question is, where does Drew McIntyre go? Well, he looked right at Nick Aldis and said, I'm done. This is BS, and I quit. So we think he leaves the building, and then later in the night, we see a match between Trick Williams and Jacob Fatu, and guess who shows up? That's right, Drew McIntyre. Now, if anybody else is a tad confused about this general process, I am too. Because I've seen Drew McIntyre quit before, and I've seen him come back. I've seen him storm out of a match, and I've seen him come back. For a guy who is as physical, who is powerful, and who can be as dominant as Drew McIntyre is, when I'm talking about Jey Uso letting his emotions run him, Drew McIntyre is no different. I don't really care for this general direction of Drew McIntyre. Whereas I want to see Drew McIntyre build more when he kicked Brock Lesnar out of the Royal Rumble and stared a hole through his soul. That is the Drew McIntyre I want. Whether he's a good guy or a bad guy, I don't want this whiny version of it. And Drew McIntyre does come off pretty damn whiny. And I don't mind that for some of my heels. I just don't want it for him. Now, that's my personal opinion. But to me, if you're as big as that and you're whining that much, it really takes the lust away from you being a monster. Like, imagine if Jason Voorhees started crying every time he removed his mask. And we saw that every time we watched the movie. Kind of have a different opinion about him. What happens if he said I'm sorry every time he killed someone? It'd be a little weird. But the fact that he has no remorse, he has no reaction to when he sees his own face. In fact, he might even get more motivated to do what he was doing that much more. Kind of want to see Drew McIntyre be more into that type of monster when he's a heel. So when I talk about Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton needing a stipulation, I don't think we can. I don't know if we need per se a stipulation, but we need something. I think at WrestleMania, I would flat out go with the last man standing, number one contenders match, Jacob Fatu, Drew McIntyre, and the winner faces whoever comes out of Drew and Randy. And there you go. And I really wouldn't hate it if we got Jacob and Randy. I really wouldn't. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts about Drew, because I'm not gonna lie, I do want to see Drew and Jacob at some point. I just want more violence, and maybe the violence that we got out of Randy and Cody. That's probably the violence I'm looking for Drew and Jacob. Now we got one more topic that I do want to talk about, but before we do that, I do want to let everybody know that next week we're dealing with episode 120. That's right. 120 episodes of the Chris Parrish podcast. And for that, I must say, thank you very much to everyone for getting and helping me reach that milestone. So if you want to know what episode 120 is going to be, well, let's just ask the honest question. Are we ready? And the reason why I went there for next week's episode isn't because this is a new era of the Chris Parrish podcast. No. I think we're about to see some more big change with the WWE. We're going to get, I think, the Demon back at WrestleMania. I think something's got to give between CM Punk and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I think something big is going to happen between Cody and Randy at WrestleMania. And that's just 3 things. We might see even more coming out of everything. We might see Obafemi and Brock Lesnar. We might even see Royce Keys come back and face someone at WrestleMania. But there's going to be some change. And I can't wait to talk about what that change could be. So as we brace for Impact, I must ask, are we ready with episode 120 of the Chris Parrish podcast? The last topic of the day is I want to talk about the women's tag team scene, because I did predict just a couple weeks ago that when coming to WrestleMania, what I would do is a multi-woman tag team TL. 4 of those teams I picked were Bayley and Lyra, Bella's, Lash and Nia, as well as Charlotte and Alexa. And 3 of those teams got a little fiery on SmackDown, as we saw Nia Jax and Lash Legend defend their WWE Women's Tag Team Championships against Alexa Bliss and Charlotte. The only thing is we got the Bellas coming and making their return to SmackDown. Yes, it was live from Phoenix, Arizona, where they both are from. But nonetheless, the Bellas were there to say we're back to be champions and we're calling next. They're putting their quarter on the table and looking at the game and saying, whoever wins, we got next. Yet, nobody technically won. Nobody really lost, because the Bellas, who sat outside of ringside, got involved, whether it's through an accidental shot from Charlotte to Brie, or it was the Bellas getting involved in the finish with Lash and Nia. The match got thrown out. I believe it was a disqualification victory. But nevertheless, the shot from Alexa and Charlotte, they didn't get their fair shot for the title, so really, there is no real winner. So you can make an argument that right now, we got 3 teams vying for the tag team championship match, despite the fact that the Bellas are now going after the tag team championships next week on SmackDown. I do think that if we're going to go somewhere with the women's tag team titles, it will not just be 3 teams from SmackDown. And you can say, well, technically Nikki Bella is always on Raw. Sure. But now the lead up has always been SmackDown. And Brie was never assigned a show. So I do think it's kind of a moot point to talk about that. It's why I still think on Monday, when Bayley does challenge AJ Lee for that Women's Intercontinental Championship match, we will see AJ Lee win that match. It will be complete. Lyra will then let Bayley know that they should be focused on the match that they should have had last year. They should be focused on the women's tag team titles, and that will stay there. And they will then, in my eyes, challenge for next. And that will create just a giant, you know what, kind of a show. And then a big announcement will be made about what we're doing at WrestleMania with those 4 teams. That is my prediction, to go back and tie it back in to do that TLC match with those 4 teams involved. Let me know what you guys think about all these teams combating the women's tag team titles, because right now I love the fact that the tag team titles are one of the most talked about titles in WWE. There's a lot going on, and there always seems to be chaos involving those championships. And because of that, sign me up. But that does come to a conclusion of this show. This has been episode 119 of the Chris Parrish podcast, titled Shots Fired. I do want to let everybody know that if you want to help support me in any way, or the Chris Parrish podcast in any way, please go check out my link tree at Chris Parrish. You can go and follow, sub, or even like any one of the pages, whether it's on Facebook, X, Kick, YouTube, or even on Spotify. If you have a chance to hit like, share, subscribe, please do so. Also, please check out turnbucklestudios.org for any and additional details about where I'll be next. I want to say thank you to everyone who has taken the time to watch this show, and I will see you next week. But until then, I'll always ask for everyone to be happy, be healthy, and understand that at the end of the day, you matter.
Rip through the clouds, faster, catch us from falling close to the ground. Perish or try.